Welcome back to another edition of Cook. Don't be lazy. So I'm a little hungry today. I've yet to eat, and I got to thinking, what do I want? I want some rice. I know how to make white rice, Chinese fried rice, Spanish rice, and arroz con gandules. I think I'm leaning towards the arroz con gandules. I'm not going to go to no fast food place, because I ain't lazy. I'm going to cook. To begin with, we're going to make our sofrito sauce. We're not going to buy that garbage at the store in a can. We're going to make it fresh. So get yourself a green pepper and slice it and dice it. No seeds. We don't want the seeds. Now I got not nailed at, but I got kind of yelled at, I should say. Yelled at, disciplined, scolded, whatever you want to call it. But basically, I was called out on not pre-washing my veggies. Well, I didn't feel a need to show that on video. But yes, these veggies are pre-washed. So, pre-wash your veggies before cutting them and using them. We're going to cut these into smaller pieces. No real specific way other than just tiny pieces. We're going to throw them in a blender. So you don't want big chunks going into the blender. So the smaller the pieces, the easier it'll blend up. So just slice and dice until they're kind of small. We're going to do a bell pepper. And we're going to do an onion. Very simple sofrito recipe. Now, arroz con gandules is not something that I've always known how to make. I just learned how to make this about 2 years ago or so. I've always loved arroz con gandules, but being that it's more of a staple of Puerto Rican and Cuban cuisine, I was used to eating yellow Spanish rice for the most part. What am I doing? Why am I... Alright, I just need this in pieces. I don't need to slice this into teeny tiny pieces. So, anyways, I got sidetracked there. I used to only eat Spanish rice, yellow rice. But when I learned how to make this, oh my gosh, I fell in love with this. So I make this a lot now. And so tomato, onion, green pepper, onion, a tomato. I don't like that little part. You guys see that part right there? I don't like that. I don't know if it's any good or not, but it freaks me out. So I'm tossing that. And we need garlic. So get yourself a couple pieces of garlic. I'm going to use 3 little pieces. And again, it's all a matter of how much you're making. Eyeball it. It's going to be a common term across all my videos. Eyeball it. Don't be messaging me, as some of you already have, asking how much of this and how much of that do I put. I don't know. Eyeball it. It all depends on how much you're making. Cilantro. We need some cilantro. So let's get everything into the blender. We're going to throw in our green peppers. Throw in our onion. Put in our cilantro, our tomato, our garlic, and some olive oil. I don't know how many teaspoons that was. I eyeballed it. Blend it up. We want to kind of puree it. Now, if it doesn't want to go down, don't be scared to stop it. Push it down. Now, don't stick your hand in there while it's running and chop the finger off. But push it down with something. Turn it off, push it down. Try again. When it looks like a smoothie, it's good to go. That right there is some good sofrito sauce. Now that our sofrito sauce is done, let's work on the rice portion. Want to slice up some bacon, teeny tiny pieces. Now remember this tip. If your bacon is semi-frozen, very easy to cut. If it's straight from the fridge, it's going to be like a wet, limp noodle. It's going to be stretching everywhere as you try to cut it. So you want your bacon in small pieces. You don't want big chunks of bacon in your arroz con gandules. Let's add our bacon to our pan. So going back to our, we're gonna cook that, not all the way. We're gonna cook that to, I'm at a loss for words right now. We're gonna cook that till it's almost crispy. We're gonna use all the oil from that. Speaking of oil, I've come across quite a few people over the years. When it comes to making rice, a lot of people don't realize that you can make rice a lot of ways. Most people are used to just using water, and I don't do it that way. I always fry the rice somehow, some way. Frying the rice gives it a toastier, nuttier kind of flavor. So fry your rice. Fry your rice. With oil is what I'm getting at. You'll see what I'm talking about here momentarily. So let's cook down our bacon. That's going to take a few minutes. Going back to the eyeball method. So when people are asking me about how much of this, how much of that, I don't know. What I tell people is practice makes perfect. You know, if you don't like the way it comes out, adjust your seasonings. That's all. Adjust your seasonings. It's how I learned. Might not come out right the first time. That's why you shouldn't try it on a family get-together or anything. Make it when you're hungry, by yourself, for yourself, whatever. And if you like it, good. Use it for a get-together or something. If something was off, adjust your seasonings. Once you perfect it, then you can now add it to your arsenal of cooking repertoire. It's how I learned. No one taught me how to make this. The Arroz con Gandules, I've been eating it for years. But I learned how to make this. I took basically 2 different recipes off the internet, and I took what were the best elements from those 2 recipes. I combined it together, and I love this recipe now. So, when the bacon is almost done, a lot of grease, a lot of flavor. I'm going to use 1 cup of rice. We're going to throw in our rice. I'm going to make sure all the rice is coated with the grease, the bacon grease. We're going to let this toast up a couple minutes. You're going to stir this continuously off and on for about 5-6 minutes. Then, by the way, so far I'm at, if you got one of them stoves with low to high with numbers in between, I'm at number 6, which is a little bit over medium. So once you notice the arroz, the rice, changing a little bit of color, throw in your sofrito. If you have extra sofrito, freeze it. You can use it next time. You're allowed to freeze your sofrito. You don't want to overload it with all the sofrito you made. Just put some of it. Put a good amount, but enough to coat the arroz, but don't put all of it in there. We're going to fry this up for about 2 minutes. What we're trying to do is let some of the oils come out. We want some of the oils to be released from all the veggies. So while we're waiting on this, I'm just going to put this a little less. I'm going to put it more towards the number 5, right in the middle. We're going to add water. Now the general rule for rice is 2 parts water to 1 part rice. We're not doing that. We're going to do about 1.65 parts water to 1 part rice. So in other words, you got 1 cup of rice, do a little bit more than 1.5 cups of water. You got 2 cups of rice, do 3 cups of water, 3.25 cups of water or so. The reason being we're not going to follow that rule of 2 parts water, 1 cup, 1 part rice. There's already a lot of liquids. We got the oil, we got the sofrito. You start doing that rule with 2 cups water to 1 part rice, you're going to get mushy rice. Let's add our water. One cup. And a little less than 3/4 cup. We're going to stir it just a little bit. Trying to get some of that seasoning on the bottom. Then we're going to cover it. Actually, wrong. We need to add our gandules. So dried pigeon peas, gandules, drain it. Drain it. We need to add our seasonings. Some Sazon. Now the Sazon is primarily for coloring, food coloring. Some people like to use tomato sauce in their arroz. I don't use a tomato sauce. Just use some Sazon. That's going to make the arroz turn a little into that yellowish orangish color. Garlic powder. Garlic powder. Not too much because we're already using garlic in our sofrito sauce. Ground cumin. Throw in your ground cumin and some kind of seasoning salt. This is just some cheapy dollar store seasoning salt. Stir it. You don't want all your seasonings just sitting on the top. I'm going to wait for this to come to a slight boil again, and then I'm going to bring it down to a simmer. But in the meantime, a tip. I'm always trying to give tips when possible. Don't use 2 cups of rice in a small pot like this. What's going to end up happening is you're going to end up with that much rice, and it's going to get mushy. You need your rice to breathe. So if you're making a lot of rice, get a bigger pot, get a bigger pan. If you're making a little bit of rice, you can use something smaller. But you don't want that much rice in an itty bitty pot. Mushy rice. My son was asking me about his mushy rice a couple months back. And I came to realize he was using a very small pot when he was making his rice. Now, no matter what he tried, his rice kept coming out mushy. So I ended up buying him a bigger pot. Now his rice is coming out better. So, get the right pot. We're going to cover this up. Bring it to low. And we're going to check up on this in a little bit. 15-20 minutes into it. You want to give it a stir. You want to get some of the seasoning underneath. Because otherwise, once the water starts to evaporate, everything's going to be on top. So stir it up a little bit, get some of that seasoning underneath. Cover it back up. It's already looking good. Smelling great. Cover it back up. And we'll check on it again in a little while. It's been about 40 minutes or so. This is ready to go. Smells great. Time to plate up. So I made myself a little salad to go with this. This is my lunch. I'm hungry. Tastes really good. A home-cooked meal will always beat out any fast food place. So remember, cook! Don't be lazy! So as you can see, I've ran into issues. Ran into a problem here. I've super glued it, but the base to my blender was cracked. So I just called my neighbor up, panicking, because I was in the middle of recording this video, and he's not home, and he's not going to be home for a while. So this is the part that you know, that's that part. It's an important part. But he's not home, so I've got to make do with super glue and hope that this holds while I'm making the sofrito sauce. So just kind of a behind the scenes look at the trials and tribulations of video making.